Afternoon, Las Vegas. This is Clark coming to you live with the herd from Las Vegas, Nevada. And with me today is Cyrstal Bundy, right?
Alford.
Alford, I was going to ask, but anyways, Cyrstal Alford. And she's here to bring you up to date on her little situation with her kid and child's custody and all that stuff, I guess, which is always a quagmire and bag of worms and stuff. So anyways, welcome, Cyrstal.
Thank you.
Nice to have you back. You were with us, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago or something like that.
Yeah, about that.
So bring us up to date. What's going on?
Well, pretty much the same. I go back to court tomorrow, and I guess it's to start the guardianship hearings. So my son is still with his grandparents. I've still been fighting for him. Nothing's changed. I haven't been able to retain an attorney, so that's been difficult. Every hearing so far I've gotten on my own, and that's why I'm here today.
The court you go to, is it here or is it somewhere else? Does it physically go here? Or?
No, we go in Arizona.
Arizona. That's what I was wondering. That's what I was. What city?
It's in Bullhead
Bullhead
City.
City. Okay. All right. Well, anyways, so you've been before that judge before?
Not previous to this whole ordeal, but we have been actually in front of him probably 5 to 6 times since this began in October.
So you've been before this judge before?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. What's his attitude like?
You know, it's hard for me to tell. At times I want to think that he's, doing the right thing, doing the just thing, what he's supposed to do, and then, ultimately, every bit of this has been illegal. Every bit of this whole thing has been, it just blows my mind that any judge in the world wouldn't have already made them return my child to me, and I can't understand it. I can't wrap my head around it.
Well, I have a case going on too, and I go online a lot and I start reading stuff about, courts and this and that, and corruption particularly. And the other night I was flashing around and I was running into a lot of the child custody stuff and everything, and man, that is a real mess, I'll tell you what, because you have absolutely no recourse. Anybody can say anything at all about you, damage your character, character assassinate, say whatever they want, and it completely goes. They can lie through their teeth, doesn't matter, nobody holds them and say, hey, that's a lie, it just, nothing happens. It just, and then it always comes down to the judge, and probably, not speaking out of turn because I can prove it, depending on how much campaign contributions they get from what lawyer, that's the way they decide.
Right. And that's exactly what I feel like I'm up against here. It's my word against theirs, but this whole time they've had an attorney, and I'm not an attorney. I'm not qualified to go up against an attorney, and I've had to, and it's been difficult. It's been hard.
Well, they'll rule against you just because of the fact you don't have an attorney.
Right.
And they'll go to the death chamber saying that's not the case. Oh no, we give them extra latitude. We bend over backwards. That's all BS. And I'll tell you what, I've been with attorneys, without attorneys, what have you. And what I notice is when you have an attorney, the attorney is saying things not actually the way I would say them and present them, because he doesn't take on the other side. He doesn't answer anything the other lawyer says. If the other lawyer's lying about something, they'll never ever confront him with, is what I'm trying to say. Ever. And some of the things, are well known. And the lawyer just won't do that. And then I had a thing going on the other day where we have a court-appointed trustee who's totally an illegal trustee, and we're pointing this out to him, and we're saying, you're not a legal trustee because the court appointed you without any jurisdiction, so you're nothing. Okay, but what you're doing is you're just a puppet of the judge, and you're doing whatever he says to do, and he's telling you to do illegal stuff. So you may be going to jail because you were involved in a criminal act, a Class A felony. And you got some answering to do, and you got to be careful. So the guy finally went out. He got another lawyer like a month ago. That lawyer lasted 1 day. We went to court. The lawyer tried something. I caught him on it, and he went down in flames. So he was fired, and now he's got another lawyer. And this lawyer, one of the first things out of his mouth, well, I can't talk to you because you don't have a lawyer. See, they want you to have a lawyer because if there's 2 lawyers involved, they talk to each other differently. And they all get in on it. And they try to find out where they're going to make the most amount of money. And that's how they keep the thing going. Whether one lawyer's got a guy with money, like maybe your opponent, they have money over there, I don't know. But as long as somebody has money, it's going to keep going. And they're going to work together to figure out how to do that.
Right.
And it's just you can't win because it's a system. The system's absolutely 100% broken. There's no question about it. It's been hijacked. The whole entire system and process has been hijacked.
Well, if I had any hope in the system or any trust in it before this, I definitely don't now.
Yeah, it's terrible. So I don't know. You know, I'm not giving you good news, that's for sure. But you know, I'm just honest. I mean, you're not going to sugarcoat this thing and make it into something it's not. You know, the system is absolutely 100% broken. There's no doubt about it. And it used to be years ago, you think, well, the woman always comes out on top, you know, because she's the mother and, you know, all this or whatever. And sometimes that's normally the case. Sometimes it may not be the facts, you know. But now it just seems to be, it comes down to the lawyers and who has the most money and who has the ear of the judge. And the facts don't mean anything. They mean absolutely nothing.
Well, in my situation, I would say that one of the biggest factors is the fact that I am fighting the Bundy family, and my son is a Bundy, and with all the media, with all the attention that the Bundy family is getting now, I feel like it has a lot to do with the reason my son's not home.
But you got a Bundy in jail, and I think, I know this case that you're talking about is really not related, other than the name, but Clive Bundy, in my opinion, is being illegally held in jail. Pure and simple. And that's me to a T, because I don't agree in going against the law at all. You have constitutional rights, as you do as a mother, and they're being violated or not or whatever. I don't know all the facts of the case. But my point is with Clive Bundy is, you know, it used to be when they first started out, well, he was organizing militias to go against the government, and he's a domestic terrorist and this and that and all this crap, you know. Well, they weren't getting too far with that because most of that wasn't true, and Bundy has kind of a long history. That's just not the case. And then so now they go to, well, the last thing the judge says, well, he has a history of not obeying court orders, so if I issue an order, he may not obey it in the future, so I'm going to keep him in jail so he can't not disobey my, you know. What is that?
Right.
You know, I mean, it's outrageous. It's an abuse of power, and the courts in this country are out of control. They're absolutely out of control. And especially from what I read the other day and stuff online, the child custody thing, and that's a nightmare, because you can have one parent completely make up stories, and pretty easy to probably disprove, like, you know, you're sexually molesting your child. I mean, I think there could be evidence that you could attack that pretty easily, but they won't let you.
Right.
So how do you clear your name when the child's being lied to by one, saying these vicious things about the other, and it's like the accusation means everything and facts mean nothing.
And that's a fact in my case is, you know, Arizona law states that if the parents are not married at the time the child is conceived or born, the mother has all legal rights to the child until there's actually a paternity established and a court order set in place by a judge. Tyler and I, my son's father, were never married. And another fact is he is deceased. He passed away. This is his parents that took my child, illegally hid him in another state while they filed an order with the court solely on their word. And the judge signed it because... What's
the law in Nevada?
You
said Arizona.
I don't know for sure, just because I've done so much research with Arizona that's where I've been at.
Because let's say Nevada had a different law than Arizona, where even if you were cohabitating or whatever, blah, 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 could be different than where, you know, the paternity doesn't really matter in one state. Now then it might come down to where is the child actually living?
Well,
What
we
would you
tried that.
consider his residence, huh?
We tried that because at the time that they took him, I resided in Nevada. They resided in Arizona. And when Arizona police would not assist me, I went to Nevada and I said, you know, he was taken from here, this is where his home is, and they wouldn't help. They said I needed to take it up with Arizona, and the couple times that they actually had an officer respond to my home, they sent a Bundy cop. So it was like pulling teeth. I got nowhere. It was
Yeah, so, geez,
16 times.
what-
I have a printout. 16 times that I called Mojave County Sheriff's Department to assist me in getting my son from October. And it was about 3 months. Not even 3 months. 16 different times, and they never helped me.
So you're saying there's an Arizona law, at least, we don't know what Nevada is, but in Arizona, if you weren't married and paternity hasn't been proven, that you have custody of the child and the unless never happened.
No, unless they're married.
Right, so by law, the way you're relaying it, they're not following the law, so what do you do?
Right. So from that first
You
phone
can't go
call,
to the Supreme Court of the United States because they won't take the case.
Right.
Can you go to the Supreme Court of Arizona or Nevada?
I don't know, right now we're in Superior Court with the judge and we'll see how it goes, but you would think that from the very beginning he would have said, look, you know, what you did was, I mean, I have a report from an officer, the actual report, and it states that the officer told them you have to return her child to her. She has all legal rights to him and you have to, or you will be arrested for custodial interference, and nothing was ever done.
Who wrote that order?
Mojave County Sheriff by the name of Stock. He wrote that report for me. I filed it as evidence in the hearing. The judge didn't even allow it in yet. So I'm going for it again, but...
Now, is that Nevada, Mojave, I don't know, is that Nevada?
That's Arizona.
Yeah, they have so many similar counties I can't keep track of. So you have in Arizona, because the child's in Nevada, right?
No, he's in Arizona.
Is that where Bundy lives?
Yeah. Well, it's right on the Arizona Strip, so it borders Mesquite.
But technically it's Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then Arizona, irregardless of what Nevada law is, Arizona law should apply.
Right.
So you have that from the sheriff. Well, I don't know if this, you have to do everything pro se. So, but if this Superior Court makes any ruling at all, from what little I know about it, you should have a right to appeal it to the Supreme Court.
Right.
If that's the proper court there. Appellate court, do they have an appellate court?
I believe so.
Yeah, so you'd appeal it to the appellate court, I guess. And then if it is the law, in my opinion, the law has to, I know here in Nevada they have a constitution. And the Constitution says that the state of Nevada has to abide by all rulings of the U.S. Supreme Court and Congress and everything else. So if there's an established law of the land, the state of Nevada anyways has to abide by it by their Constitution.
Right.
I would assume that every state has that.
Right.
Like every state I've looked at so far has had that. So how does a judge get by not following the law? But they do it all the time.
Right. And what do people like myself, I mean, what do we do? In the meantime, my son sits there and confused, I can only imagine.
Well, I'm sure you're getting lied to on a daily basis. And, you know, you're the monster because, you know, they have the ear. Yeah, it's a bad situation. I wish, you know, this is one of the things that I keep fighting on this show every day and everything else that I'm doing, that there has to be some sort of civilian oversight of the courts, because right now, if the courts go off the rails like they always are, there's nobody to bring them back on the rails, because the civil or the discipline committees and all that stuff is just more judges and more lawyers.
Right.
They're all part of the same tribe.
Yeah.
Like the Bundy cops, you say, you know, it's all, they're all connected.
Yeah.
So you get nowhere, it's just the wild, wild west. There's no real justice, it's terrible.
And every attorney that I have spoke to, they all say the same thing. It's absurd. They can't believe this is happening.
Oh,
Yeah, but ultimately they want money.
Well, I have, in my case, I have the US Supreme Court rulings, binding decisions, and not just one, I have probably 50. And what it happens is they're pointed to in all other cases, they're pointed to, and you don't come out with any new precedents because all the established cases now are pointing to old cases. That's the controlling factor. So I have all of those on my favor. So when it comes to point of law, my lawyer will tell me, I 100%, look, you're preaching to the choir, I'm 100% on your side. Everything you say legally is correct, every single thing, but I don't wear the black robe.
Right.
So, you know, I mean, so you're telling me the whole system's just corrupt and broken. And you're bound by the Constitution, you have to rule by the law. My case, the appellate court, I have a case where the district court judge committed a Class A felony, not once, not twice, 3 times. So 3 different felonies. And there's probably more, but that's enough, isn't it? You would think. And so there's a liability that's been created here that the taxpayers of the state of Nevada could be on the hook for treble damages and everything else, and we're getting up into the millions of dollars.
Wow.
And that's a very big liability. So the appellate court, I appealed to the Supreme Court, then the appellate court came on the scene, so they lowered my case to the appellate court, which is typical. And then the appellate court makes a ruling, and I've read a lot of rulings in the last several years, and the bottom line is, just to make it short, the appellate court's trying to cover up for the judge. Because you can read in the ruling. Because I have them stuck with precedences. So they point to the precedent, and then they ignored it. They come up with something like, well, I never raised the issue of personal jurisdiction in Nevada. Because, why? Because it's irrelevant. It has nothing to do with subject matter jurisdiction. You either have jurisdiction over property or you don't. You can't make the property, I'm not Lance Burton, you can't just make the property appear here. It's either here or it isn't here. So I have them, I've got them cold. So the appellate court rules, they call it an affirmation. What they did, they affirmed that the judge here had personal jurisdiction. Not even an issue. Not even an issue. But now all the opposing lawyers, oh, this has already been affirmed, we're just wasting our time because the appellate court's already just, no they didn't. No they didn't. And then coincidentally, the Supreme Court comes out with a ruling on another case over the exact same issue, where a district court here went to California and tried to dictate that mining claims in California could be awarded to Nevada litigants. And that's across property lines. You can't do that.
Right.
And the Supreme Court ruled that can't be done. So they vacated all the district court's rulings. Vacated them all. So that's exactly like my case. Now the appellate court tried to cover up for the judge, and a month later the Supreme Court comes in and rules exactly opposite. And the Supreme Court, of course, is a higher court. So, you know, my case is dead as a doornail.
Right.
They can't do nothing. But now everybody's trying to still do something, they don't have jurisdiction.
Right.
So I laugh at them.
It's a circus.
It is, and it's an absolute joke. Because you've got a judge now that's just trying as desperately as he can to protect this judge that created a Class A felony. And whatever he does, the judge is hung.
Right.
So it's a mess. But I got him cold by the law, cold. But so far, it doesn't mean anything, but it will. It will. But you got to take all the money out of the game, you know.
Yeah.
That's the only way you can get anything over with is the money's gone. Because otherwise the lawyers keep going. And if they're getting paid, they're going to keep going.
Right.
If they're not getting paid, they'll stop. They're not going to keep going. So you got to get down to the basics. So how are you going to run out of money?
I don't know. My son's grandparents asked the judge for me to cover their court fees. He did rule against that, thank God, but I mean, I don't know where they thought that was going to come from.
Well, then maybe, you know, I don't know. But when they stop paying, then it'll end.
Yeah.
But let's say you had money, they had money, it'll never end. Because the lawyers will keep it going.
Right. And in the
Simple as that.
meantime, you know, they're collecting welfare for my child, they're garnishing my disability. It's just been, which is okay, I still, you know, it's not okay, but as long as my son's okay.
Well, I tell you what, there's a lot of horror stories like this, there's a lot of them. And I don't know what can be done about them because you're dealing with a system that says you can't deal with it.
It's
There's
like
no
a
common
Lifetime
sense in
movie.
it. Yeah, there's no common sense in it. Nothing makes sense. Nothing makes sense. So anyways, so your next court thing was just tomorrow?
Yeah, we go back to court tomorrow.
So,
We haven't been back, the last court date we had was in February.
and what's the issue tomorrow is custody?
Yeah, the hearings that we had up until now were, I guess, it was just pertaining to the temporary orders. And because they're seeking full guardianship. It's called non-parent guardianship, and they're not just going after grandparents' rights or anything. They just want to take and sever my guardianship altogether. So I guess that's where we start tomorrow.
How does a
I don't know
non-parent
how.
prevail on that over a parent? You
I
would
don't
think
know.
that parent would mean something.
Right, and that's the thing is like, part of what they filed is they have to prove that my child looks at them as a parent, not as a grandparent, not as anything else, but as a parent, and that's not the case. I mean, my son knows that I'm his mom, and he knows that those are his grandparents, and yeah, the attorney sits in there and fights about how they've established this and how he believes that Ashton's best interests are with his grandparents, and that's another thing. They're
And
supposed
you
to
sit there and
act.
you listen to all these lies.
Right, and
they're all
I can't, and where do I
lies.
come in? I
You
try
can't
to
do
come in,
anything.
it's the wrong time. The judge overrules anything that I have to say because, again, I'm not an attorney and I don't know when I'm supposed to get that in. But, I mean, what do you do? It's like, I need a voice. I need somebody in there with me. I spoke to an attorney, a friend of ours, who told me point blank, Cyrstal, if you don't get an attorney in there with you, you're gonna lose. And it shattered me. Because this has already been such a devastating thing, and it's been months and months. And my daughters miss their brother, I miss my son. I mean, our family's been just torn apart, and it has to come to an end. And I'm not gonna give up, like you said. I mean, I will appeal it if it comes to that, but I'm hoping that somebody will hear me or hear about the case and help me, because that's what I need at this point.
Is there something out there like you can claim child abuse from the grandparents and get some assistance from a social type environment, whatever, where they'll get you a lawyer?
I've been looking in every.
Then you're claiming, you know, like child abuse.
Right. And then I think I mean, then we run the risk of like Ashton being taken from them and placed into it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
I have had a CPS supervisor out of Arizona who did a report. She went over there and, you know, she talked to Ashton. She made sure he was okay and whatnot. But she did also file the report stating that, you know, there was no reason to further investigate my home or my situation because there just wasn't a need. My kids were fully taken care of. There was everything that they needed. And that's been three times that they've called CPS on me, and CPS has taken it no further because there's been, all the allegations were proven to be false. Yet these people are allowed to just say what they want, do what they want, keep my child at their discretion. It's like, I mean, what do you do? I tried everything. I did everything I should have done. I called the police. The police are supposed to be there to assist you in something like this, and they didn't. They didn't help. 16 times I called. And finally, when they said, okay, you have to give her child back, they had already taken him across state line for 3 days. They hid him across state line. And filed his papers. And now it's been going on ever since.
Boy, I don't know, there should be some sort of child protection agency that looks at that. What does your child say?
Ashton, I talk to him every day. I give him a cell phone. He's 5 years old. But
I mean, if someone else talks to him, like,
he's just not the same. He's not the same little boy anymore. I mean, he's just. It's got to be devastating enough to lose your dad. It's, you know, I mean, my kids just lost their dad in October, and immediately, I mean, he was they lost each other as well because he wasn't allowed to come home, and it was like, this is what I ask myself, what does my son think when I go see him and then we leave and he doesn't come with us and he stays there? He looks at me like, what's going on, you know?
how old is he?
He's 5, he just turned 5.
Jesus Christ.
And we've gone to his grandparents' house his whole life and visited, but we've always lived together as a family. And this past year, it's been, we're leaving him there. And so all I can think is the confusion that my son's experiencing, and it breaks my heart. I mean, I cry daily because, you know, my girls, they're 14 and 15, and I mean, their bond with their brother, they were 9 and 10 when he was born, so they almost have a maternal bond there, and it's been, when I say rough, I mean rough. You know, it's not right. And I have recordings of my son telling me that he, you know, crying, saying he hates them, he wants to come home, asking me and his sisters to call him back. He calls me a lot. And, you know, it's just, the whole thing, like I said, the whole thing is wrong. It's wrong, and something should have been done a long time ago. And I have to keep the faith that eventually it's going to work out the way it's supposed to, but so far it's been a nightmare.
So what's your attitude might be the wrong word, but what's your game plan when you're talking to this judge as far as what are your issues that you're trying to get him to address? Do you go by the parent thing that we discussed with Arizona and parental, where do you go?
I've tried. I mean, I get what I can in when I can because I don't, you know, I'm not an attorney, so it's, you know, I kind of just follow suit. Pretty much every hearing they've started them. You know, again, they have an attorney, so obviously the judge addresses him first. And I've had to do cross-examinations on my own.
Who are you cross-examining?
I've had both my son's grandma and grandpa on the stand. I've had to question and cross-examine and all that on my own. Of course, I was told that I did a really good job, but to me it was a nightmare. It's just, it's been a mess.
But your son's never been on the stand.
No, he's never even been to the court.
Oh, jeez. Amazing.
Yeah.
I see TV shows where the judge will ask a kid like your age, that age, now and then. I see TV shows.
I wish they could put my son on the stand because, you know, he's such a smart little boy. But even my daughter, the last hearing we had, my daughter wanted to testify, and she wasn't allowed to at that time. But I'm hoping that this time they'll get to speak. They wrote letters to the judge. I've had numerous letters sent by all kinds of, you know, friends, family. So far, nothing's helped, but.
Well, so what would be the best thing that could happen to you tomorrow?
Well, the best thing would be that the judge lets my son come home. That would be great,
Yeah.
but I doubt that's going to happen. I don't even know what
So
tomorrow
what's the hearing
entails.
for? Yeah, that's what
I don't even know. That's how it's been so far. It's like, my original thinking of this whole thing was, okay, we're gonna go into a room and we're gonna talk to the judge, and he's gonna see how ridiculous this was, and Ashton will come home. That's how I went into this thinking, because it was just, the whole thing was just absurd. And I was so wrong. I was so wrong, because it was a full-on, you know, almost like a trial, where I've been defending myself, defending my choices, defending myself as a mother, defending my children. I mean, they've done everything. They've gone as far as to just, this last hearing, I mean, it was all about my 14-year-old daughter, and anything and everything they could think of to bring up to show that, I mean, she's had some issues, but ultimately my girls, they're great kids. They're straight A students. They're great kids. They're just like any other child. But they went as far as to just degrade my daughter on the stand, and just, the whole hearing was basically about her, and I didn't understand that. It was like, I thought this was about my son and his well-being.
Yeah, when you're in an adversarial type of situation, one side's gonna say,
Right.
they're gonna just character assassinate like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That's all they got, so that's what they do.
Right.
And as far as being like an officer of the court and supposed to be truthful and all that, that's an absolute joke.
Well, and then, you know, this is supposed to be in Ashton's best interest, and there's not a person in their right mind who could say that what's taken place so far has been in Ashton's best interest, because it just hasn't. You know, you can't rip a child from his home and his mother, his sisters, you know, he has other family on my side. He has grandma and grandpa, he has aunts, he has uncles and cousins, and he hasn't seen any of them. And every day of his life, he was around all of us, and then just like that.
Who do you have that goes to court with you? Do you have any of these relatives that show up?
So far, I mean, my daughter's been, but so far I haven't actually had any of my family testify. We were going to at the last hearing. It's been kind of like I'm playing it by ear here, because I don't know what's going to happen with each hearing. I mean, like I said, maybe an attorney would be able to tell me better, but I've gone at this I was completely blind through this whole thing, and I've done my best, but so far that hasn't been good enough. And my biggest fear is that, like the attorney told me, without somebody there to speak for me, to represent me legally, and to be my voice, and I'm gonna lose. And I can't fathom losing my child. I can't.
Do you do any research on the law?
I've done so much research. I've spent hours and hours and nights and days just on...
Found any case precedences that are where parental rights supersede everything?
I have not. That's one thing I haven't. It's kind of like anything that I have found so far, when I try to get it in, it's not the time, or and so that's been my biggest obstacle, I think, is when to present what, because so far, I guess I've been doing it at the wrong time.
These temporary orders that you're dealing with, have you looked those up to see what the establishment is for the temporary order? Temporary order is temporary.
Right.
And what happens when it expires?
Right. Well, the judge ruled on that. I got his ruling about a month ago, and it was that they were to stay in place until our next hearings, and that was because, and in that ruling, he states that the reason being is that I did not inform the court of my new address, because his grandparents had told the court that I was moving, and I did tell the judge, yes, I do plan on moving, but I hadn't moved yet. And when he was adjourned for those hearings and said that, what he said to us was, at the last hearing, he said, I will make my ruling sometime in the near future. I will do my best, if at all humanly possible, to make it as fast as humanly possible. That's exactly what he said. Sometime in the near future and as fast as humanly possible. And it was about 2.5 months, and he said he would be ruling in writing. So I checked the mail every day. And during that time, I moved out of my house, and by the time the ruling came, it stated that I had not informed the court of my new address. Therefore, the temporary orders were to stay in place until our next hearings, at which time we'd be addressing permanent guardianship. So I don't know if these are hearings that's gonna, I mean, is it more testimony? Is it more, well, I don't even know what tomorrow entails.
I don't know, it's really a tough situation because the courts, they just don't rule by law half the time, or more than that even, so it's a really tough deal because you don't even know what you're appealing or what you're ruling, or,
Right.
you know, and these things will always be, you're always gonna miss something. Like you didn't inform the court, well, you thought, you know, where does it say that if you move in the meantime, you have to inform the court? Where was that said? Probably wasn't. Maybe something you should have known, but I mean.
And it's to the point where I don't want my son's grandparents to know my new address because my son's grandpa has taken the harassment over the years to extreme measures, and he does nothing but try to make my life, excuse my French, hell, and it's just harassment. I've actually spoke to attorneys about filing civil charges against him because it's been going on for years, but now even more so, I think, because he's grasping at whatever he can to, you know, ultimately keep my child.
I don't know enough about the law really but you have civil rights too. And
right.
You would think that something could be put before the judge that he would have to rule on.
Right.
And if he ruled on it, whichever way, if he rules against you, then you can appeal it. So I don't know, because I don't know if who you're appealing it to would be any better.
Right.
And eventually you run out of appeals. And then then you're done.
And the damage is done by that point, you know, like,
Yeah.
like how long is it gonna go on where my son's away from us? I mean, this could be, you know, each day that passes, I lose that day with my child, and it's,
I don't know, you haven't found any precedences that's kind of, I mean, especially regarding parental rights over non-parental rights. I would think that would be your number one issue because it's kind of like you are what you are and they're not what they are.
right,
So there's got to be some precedents out there that have been set.
right,
Where are they?
that's where I'll live today. I'll go home and do some study on that. It's so, you know, and I think every time before a hearing, I think, okay, I've got this, I'm gonna go in and confident because I've done this much research and I've taken all these notes and I know what I'm gonna say, and it's just, it doesn't happen that way when I go in there.
Well, it's, and that goes to what I've gone through too, because I know what the law is. It's black and white. My thing is not hard at all. But what happened is the court is the criminal, because they're trying to steal money to give it to lawyers. And they're checkmated in numerous ways because it's a trust. You can't steal money from a trust. That's the whole purpose for a trust.
Right.
And then what he does, he stops payment on that cashier's check. And you can't do that. The reason for that check is it's supposed to be the same thing as cash. It's a alternative to carrying around cash.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's for. And if not, even if it's not that way, then that's worthless. Why would anyone ever get one of those things?
Right.
And there's trillions of dollars bought in those things every day all over the world. So what are they? Are they good or are they not? And you got a judge that's just saying, you know, he can just do whatever he wants. And that's not the way it is. But you have a judge that just, a lot of these judges, like when you have a judge that's an ex-prosecutor, that's the worst kind of judge you can have.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're only used to one thing, and that's hanging people.
Right.
So what kind of judge is that to make a determination like in a civil case?
Mm-hmm.
Or a case like yours? Or what's the qualifications? Do you know what the background of this judge is?
I don't. I've done a little bit of research on him because I mean, there's so many discrepancies in this whole thing. I mean, the web of things that have happened since this began, it would just blow your mind if I had time to tell it all. But it's at one point I was told when neither law enforcement, either county would help me. Both of them were telling me. You need to file for sole guardianship, which I had anyways, so why I needed to file for that, I don't know. But I went to the court, and I did, and this was when Tyler was still alive. And I got a judge at that point. At that time, they assigned me a judge that was not this judge, a complete different judge in a different court. And I was going through the process and whatnot, and I mean, they made it impossible for me to do the steps. And so that case he had closed out. But then when shortly after that Tyler died and his parents did this, then it went back to this judge, and from what I understand, the judge that I have now is the normal judge, I guess, for custody matters in the area. So he's the judge that, you know, sees, I guess, 90-something% of all the family court cases there. So where did this other judge come from, and why did I have him in the other case that I had filed? I don't know. And it's
Because
like,
you went to school with the other lawyer.
it's been real weird. Like, I mean, to the point, I actually received a letter stating that I had court on such and such date in such and such court. And I go to that court for my hearing, and I had to go to the legal library beforehand, and I'm sitting in there, and I'm there probably 45 minutes doing paperwork that I was filing. And about 5 minutes before it was time for our hearing to start, the lady that was working in there said, what was your judge's name again? I mean, she'd been talking to me for 45 minutes. And I told her, and she says, well, you're in the wrong court. You're supposed to be in Bullhead City, which is where I had stayed the night before. I told her when I first got there that I just came from Bullhead City. She knew me. She knew who I was. I mean, but waited until 5 minutes beforehand to tell me that I was 30 minutes away in the wrong court. Now, tell me why I received paperwork stating that that's the court that I was supposed to be in at that time. I mean, it's just stuff like that that's happened from the very beginning of this. It's why are so many discrepancies happening and nothing that
Well,
should
a lot of them can be
done?
planned, but there's a lot of incompetency too that's rampant, where nobody's held to accountability, and they make mistakes. They do things that are strange, and so what? There's nobody to say, hey, you know, you made a mistake.
Right. Yeah. At that time, the judge could have ruled right then. He could have held me in default and just ruled against me, you know. And luckily, thank God that didn't happen, because, you know, I was immediately on the phone and calling, and it was continued. But I mean, that's just another strike against me, because they used that.
How old was that order that you had telling you to go to a different court?
Oh, that was the one that I had received for that day. I mean, it was just weeks old. And
I said, well, wait a minute, I was confused. I said, this is the court that I have a paper here stating that this is where I'm supposed to be. But it was not. So,
Did you ever follow up to find out when it had been changed?
no.
Yeah, it's...
Yeah.
They'll... If they have an agenda to screw you,
Right.
you should be able to find that agenda, because after a while it becomes very apparent. And they will continue to just make mistake after mistake. Not mistake, it's intentional.
Right.
But it comes out to be that they can't do what they did. And they'll do that, and they'll do it, and do it, and do it. They'll run into a wall, and then they'll do something else that gets them around that wall, and then they'll try to get around that wall. And that's what my case has become, is a whole mess of where they've tied themselves into a pretzel. And it's very apparent what they were doing and why. Because they ran into this wall.
Right.
And, you know, this clown here, this judge, he finally had to say that the check was lost. That check is lost. That's what I put him down to. He was up against the wall. And he had to say, well, that's the only way you're gonna get the check paid. And his goal was to get the money so he could disperse it immediately, but without putting in an order yet. So immediately get rid of the money, and that way I'll go away, because the money's gone. So that's what he thought. But that's not what happened. So then they, you know, that's fraud.
Right.
Pure and simple. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And bank fraud is a federal crime because it's an FDIC insured bank. So there's federal strings there, and the feds are the ones that make these laws, and they're passed by Congress, and then they're very, very broad because they want to snare anybody. So the crime of bank fraud is a scheme. And all it has to be is that you get together with some people to do a scheme. You don't even have to be successful. It doesn't have to have worked. None of that. It's just the scheme is the crime. And like, you know, you got to get this to be a scheme and then make it a RICO act. And you know, and then they're all in on it, and the sheriff's in on it, and the judges are in on it, and everybody's in on it to steal your kid, and then what's their motive?
Right.
But it's... RICO was passed to go after the mafia, because what does the government do against the mafia?
Right.
The mafia doesn't obey the law, so how do you combat them? Well, the RICO Act was put together just for that, so it's very, very broad. You fall into a RICO action, you're in a lot of trouble. And then they can grab everything you have. And then you gotta prove how it's not attached or whatever. You know, you gotta fight and fight and fight to get it back. So you're
Right.
guilty until proven innocent. And that's what RICO turns everything upside down. And it beat the mafia, it really caused them all kinds of problems. But why doesn't that go into the courts too? And I think it does. Because what's the difference?
Right.
The courts are worse because they're supposed to be straight.
Right.
They're the ones that are supposed to be obeying the law, and they're the ones that break it. So they're worse than the mafia. At least you know they're gonna break it.
Right.
So you know, I can deal with bad people as long as I know they're bad people.
Right.
But it's tough, man. I don't know. Wish I had some rock solid advice for you, but anyways. The last time you were here, there's been like 177 views of that particular show, and we didn't even announce it that day, if I recall. We didn't even know you were just there. But so whatever, who those people were, knew about that somehow. You told them or somebody told them, and so that's quite a few hits, and then that doesn't count if they forward it to someone else and this and that. We don't know about that. So that's quite a lot of activity.
Yeah, it took a couple weeks just because of my own fears, but we put it on Facebook, and it spread. It got out there.
Yeah,
so.
that's Bundy. Some people that were down at the courthouse, whatever, demonstrating or what have you, on that Bundy hearing that they had, came in here and did a show, like 8 of them after that, and one of them was a guy named Wiley that had run for president or something, I don't know. But anyways, that, there were a couple organizations there, Truth and whatever, and stuff like that. Anyways, that boomed to like, geez, 250 overnight. and then 400, and I mean, that one spread. And we didn't announce that either.
Yeah.
But
I'm just hoping to get it,
yeah, so anyways, you know,
get it out there.
go to radiotribune.com, and then do you want me to use Bundy at all, or just your last name now, or?
It's Cyrstal Alford. My
Alford,
son's
yeah.
last name is Bundy, but mine is Alford.
But you want to put it, because I title it anyway I want.
Yeah.
I can put Bundy / Alford.
That's fine.
Because that may get more exposure. I don't
Right,
know.
right.
So, I'll do that. I'll just put Cyrstal Bundy / Alford.
That's fine.
And then the date. So you can go, these things get uploaded. I don't even know how it does it, but upload it to Google. And then anybody can go to Google and just type in either The Herd, I'll put under The Herd, which is this radio show, and Cyrstal Bundy / Alford, and it'll come right up. Within probably an hour, it'll come right up. And so if anybody wants to find it that way, I'm surprised what comes up. I do shows on this thing, in my case, all the time. They're all there. I mean, I've got 100 shows on there, so it's like I talked to another lawyer or somebody about somebody writing an article or this or that, you know, to get this thing to go nationwide. And because of the complicity with the cashier's check not being good, I mean, that's amazing. That's gonna take the banking of, or the business of commerce and just grind it to a halt. And it's like the trust law too. If you can't have trust, this state's always saying what a great trust law they have. Well, that's not true because it's all dependent upon your courts.
Right,
And if you have a judge that doesn't rule by law, then you got nothing.
right.
You got zero. You're just kidding yourself. You're getting yourself in a big trap. And that's why this country's got a lot of issues. They've got to get the judiciary back. This state and all others, except for 4 states, get an F on the judiciary rating that a company out of Washington, D.C. All they do is they look at the cases and do surveys or whatever to find out the integrity of courts. And they've all gone over the last, say, 8 years, they've gone from B's and C's and D's. They're all F's except 4. And the best ratings are C-. I think that's California, believe it or not.
That's,
And then everyone else is a D, a D-, and then everyone else is an F. So you have 46 F's
that's sad. That's
across the
sad,
board.
sad thing.
I think 6 or 7 years ago, Nevada was a C. Now they've gone down the tubes. And then they rate them for other things too, like the legislative integrity and this and that, economics. They rate 10, 12, 15 different things. And but the judiciary, bad news. And you go to any court like you have, and you know what they're talking about. It's pathetic. The incompetency of the judges is just overwhelming to me. Because I can see the way I look at it, when you go to school to become a lawyer, somewhere is around a certain semester where you start to lose your common sense. And it makes sense because the professor will give you an argument on a case and give you an argument the other way, and you got to argue your argument and you don't believe in it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but you got to do your best job to argue that side of the equation. Well, how long does it take? Pretty soon you don't know what the hell side's up anymore because you don't no longer know what makes sense.
Yeah.
You're just told to argue this way, and that's what you do. So all lawyers lose their common sense at some point. And then you have to be a lawyer for 5 years before you can be a judge here? I mean, Jesus Christ, there's nobody over there that's got any sense. It's insane what I see going on in those courts. And I went to one family court deal. One of my stupid kids decides he's going to be King Kong, so he's going to put a restraining order on him. And it's all over this case. He got greedy. He thought he could get money right away from the estate if he took me on. And he cut himself in his throat pretty bad. But anyway, so he takes a restraining order out on me. So I go, what's this crap? So somebody serves me, whatever. So I go to court because I'm curious, you know. And he does his spiel for about 15 seconds. And then the judge asks me, and I talk for maybe 5 seconds. And the judge says, wait a minute, when's the last time you seen this man? Oh, it's been about 3 years. And you're taking out a restraining order on him? Well, for what? You haven't seen him for 3 years. You know, and just, that's it. So that was quick. And now there's somebody in family court that's probably what they do every day.
Right.
Over and over and over and over again. They can size up the situation real quick if they're straight. Well, there's no lawyer on either side, because I don't even think in that case you'd have a lawyer.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was just boom, 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 justice, boom, that's it, see you later. You know? But that's a rarity.
And that's what I thought would happen in the beginning.
Yeah.
That's how cut and dry I thought this was, and
Well.
I was so wrong.
Yeah, when you go by the law, like in my particular situation, it's the Supreme Court has made a decision exactly the same. And what's the decision? Where's the property? Is it in the borders of Nevada? No. Okay, end of case. And there was a case in California at the Ninth Circuit, exactly like that, where there was a property in Connecticut, and the lawsuit was filed in California over property in Connecticut. So it went to the Ninth Circuit, and the first thing out of their mouth was, wait a minute, where's this property? It's in Connecticut. Oh, well, case closed. The only place it's going to be filed is in Connecticut. If it's going to be filed anywhere, it's not going to be filed here, vacated. So, see you later.
Yeah.
It's cut and dry. You can't take real property and move it.
I mean, there's a ton of pictures.
And, but anyways, Crystal, good luck to you, and I hope everything works out, something works out tomorrow, but try to get a ruling on something instead of this temporary crap.
Yeah, I'll look into that too. And
Because if you can get something that, anything at all that you can bounce up the ladder, that'll at least cause the other side problems, because if they're paying for a lawyer, they're trying to get you to pay for the lawyer now. So, you know, you can't get blood out of a rock.
right.
So that's one of your advantages. And if you're going against another side that has a lawyer, you could drive them crazy with that. Because they'll want you to have a lawyer just so they can work it out to where, you know, everybody gets paid. And if the blood stops, those lawyers are gonna be gone, man. They're gonna be gone. And, you know, just, I was reading the other day online, just to get rid of all your assets. You don't want any assets that can be found, period. Because if they can find assets or this or that, then it goes on and on and on.
Right.
You know, if they can't find nothing, it's over. Because they don't work for nothing. I get this judge over here tells me one day, you have to understand something, all lawyers need to be paid. I go, well, who are these lawyers? These lawyers aren't even, this lawyer over here is an estate attorney for a lawyer that died. What does he have to do with this case? He has no standing.
Right.
Well, you have to understand, all lawyers need to be paid. Okay, well, when I came in there, I thought there was 3 lawyers sitting on a bench outside. Should I go get them? Maybe I can bring them in here and you can pay them too. You know, I mean, idiots. What a stupid statement. Have you ever heard of the American rule, Judge? You know, that's a stupid statement.
Yeah.
All lawyers need to be paid. That's a dangerous judge, but that's a prosecutor. His background's he's a prosecutor. Yeah. Well, anyways, Crystal, good luck to you. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Give us a holler now and then. Bring us up to date if you want, and come in again.
I will.
And let us know what's going on. Next time, come in with some good news.
I hope
Bring
so.
your son with you.
I know, that would be amazing.
Put him on the
wouldn't it?
mic there and see what he's got to say about it.
Well, he'd say a lot too.
Well, that'd be good. Okay, well, thanks for coming.
All right, thank you.